There! Listen! It has begun. I have heard that sound before in my dreams. Great blasts that echo across the beaches, the screams and cries of the people, the sound of a kingdom under siege. But tonight, the great explosions that stun my ears and blind my vision come not from cannon, but from fireworks. The screams not of fear, but of joy. Voices not my people's, but those of others. The outcome is the same. The kingdom is in mortal danger. Look, a shower of golden sparks cascades over Iolani Palace. There the foreigners and their supporters have gathered to celebrate their great victory, to celebrate annexation. My Joseph, I thank God that you are not here with me tonight, for I fear this sight would send you to heaven a second time. The foreigners applaud wildly as the explosions rend the air. But what do those lights mean for the Hawaiians? Boom! A green one. Did we just lose our right to vote? Crash! A red one. Was that the extinction of our language? Whatever comes, we will stand firm, stay engaged, and be hopeful, and take heart. For Emma Nawahi has not given up the fight. Aloha Aina! As a daughter of Hawaii born in Hilo in 1854, I have always felt a strong sense of Aloha Aina, a love for the land. But those words came to mean so much more to me when I met a young politician by the name of Joseph Nawahi. I've had the unfortunate experience of meeting politicians in my day. What makes you different? My Aloha Aina. The land votes for you? No, he smiled. What kapo'e Aloha Aina do? The Haole have a word, patriot. It means one who loves his nation. I love this kingdom. The Hawaiian people love this kingdom. Should not the people who love the land be charged with its care, with its governance? I am the representative of the Hawaiian Patriots, kapo'e Aloha Aina, the people who love the land. You are a fine speaker. Grant women suffrage and I'll consider voting for you. Joseph was brilliant, having received a fine education at Lahaina Luna and later at the Royal School. But it was his magnificent heart, sweetened with the cherished threads of aloha, that I loved, and still love. On the 17th of February in 1881, under a canopy of kanilehua rain, we spoke our vows and joined our hearts as one in the sacred bond of marriage. After the wedding, we moved to Honolulu, and Joseph was back at work in the legislature. At home, he was sweet and kind, but once he stepped through the doors of the Ali'iolani Hale, he was a force of nature. Since the beginning of his legislative service in 1874, Joseph received many nicknames. The Cannon of the legislature, the Gladstone of Hawaii, the fearless chisel of the legislature. They were well earned. It was incredible to watch him speak. The people listened with stars in their eyes. He was their leader, they his loyal followers, and I, his most trusted advisor. It was from our love of the land that our passion sprang forth, our Aloha Aina. Stormy weather had been brewing of late on the ocean of politics, and a rising sea of want and need was ready to turn us over, without an ark of safety save the protective bonds of aloha. There was talk among some haole of a treaty to annex the islands to the United States of America. They seek to snatch this nation from under us, but we will not let them. We must stand firm in our Aloha Aina. The people would chant and cheer, Aloha Aina! Aloha Aina! It was in these days that I first met Lydia Lili'u Okalani, my dearest companion, and the woman whose soft hands I would later kiss as the queen of all Hawaii. So proud was she of Joseph. So proud were we all. In 1893, just 2 years after Liliuokalani's coronation as Keali'i Moku, a band of sugar planters, frustrated by their lack of progress in the legislature, suddenly and illegally overthrew the Hawaiian monarchy, displacing Her Majesty and installing a provisional government. All that we had worked toward was undone in a single day. But I would not let my Joseph falter. I held tight to him and said, "Stand firm in your Aloha Aina." "Aloha Aina," he said. Then he flashed the widest smile I've seen in all my years. A few days later, he founded 2 new political organizations, the Hui Aloha Aina, and at my urging, its equally powerful sister organization, the Hui Aloha Aina o Nawahi. Their aim was to perpetuate, by peaceful means, the independent autonomy of Hawaii. Our membership swelled almost overnight. We counted some 7,500 native-born voting men and 11,000 women. This was worrisome to the new oligarchs. So as soon as they could fabricate a reason, they arrested my Joseph and threw him into the reef, Honolulu's horrible prison. They also arrested Keali'i Moku herself on the accusation that she had buried weapons in her garden at Washington Place. Many days of patient imprisonment passed for Joseph Nawahi. After 3 months, we finally raised his bond. But when he stepped out of that pest hole, he was greatly changed. I urged him to rest, but he insisted that there was no time. "We must continue the fight," he said. "Aloha Aina!" While imprisoned, Joseph had conceived of a newspaper to support the Hui. I thought this was a wonderful idea. And so in May of 1895 was born Ke Aloha Aina, a shining torch entreating our countrymen to remain constant in their love for the land. All went well until Joseph's health took a turn for the worst. "Give my love to the Queen," he said in those final hours. "Speak on my behalf. Continue to be steadfast in your love for the land. Stand firm. Be constant. And Mama," I leaned close to him, "be hopeful." Then he clasped his hands over his chest, closed his eyes, and fell into a comfortable, calm sleep. Eulogies and honors poured into the Hawaiian language newspapers, filling page after page with kanikau. But the words that struck me the most came from Her Majesty. The cause of Hawaiian independence is larger and deeper than the life of any man connected with it. Of course, she was right. My Joseph was gone. But I would not wither and disappear. The Hui Aloha Aina and the Aloha Aina would go on. After nearly 2 years of imprisonment, Her Majesty was finally released by the oligarchs. I went to see her at once. "Aima," she said, "I feel greatly inclined to go abroad. For the first time in years, I draw a long breath of freedom. You should go, Your Majesty. Now is the time to direct your eyes forward, for there your throne awaits you." And suddenly one morning, she was gone. It was known that a petition seeking annexation had been placed before President McKinley, who, drooling at the thought of the spoils to be gained from it, had affixed his signature. It awaited only congressional approval. Keali'i Moku sailed to America in hopes that the rising flower of Hawaii might blossom in the garden of the White House, where McKinley might see it and quietly swallow the spittle. In Her Majesty's absence, I served as her eyes and ears in the kingdom. I stayed in constant correspondence with Her Majesty, providing her with information about the efforts of the Women's Hui and the movements of our enemies, and waiting in expectation of news of her health and her achievements in Washington. It occurred to me that it was selfish to keep this information to myself, and so I began to reprint in the Aloha Aina parts of our letters. The paper became a beloved sweetheart in the eyes of the people, for it gave them a magnifying glass through which they too could see the image of Her Majesty passing through the dignified capital. We were printing hope. The oligarchs saw our paper as a threat to their funny little republic, and so they turned to the black-hearted tactics they knew so well. The employees of the Aloha Aina lived in constant fear of imprisonment, and from time to time letters between Her Majesty and I were intercepted. These slippery efforts meant that we must adopt some secret ways of our own. The Aloha Aina began to communicate with its subscribers by running, in Hawaiian, mo'olelo and mele so full of kaona, or hidden meaning, that even foreigners with a firm grasp of the language would struggle to understand them. Her Majesty and I made use of code words in our letters. Scores of protest letters to President McKinley were drafted by the Hui each day. Her Majesty and I referred to them as fans. Those who peeked at our letters must have been truly baffled by our sudden and intense interest in cooling devices. It was important that our fans be woven thoughtfully and carefully if our hui was to be taken seriously, and even then they would be discarded and ignored if sent in a great flood to the desk of the president. It was necessary for us to take our fans and wave them as one, to combine the letters into a single document, a petition that would make the voices of the people heard. Unfortunately, each of the hui had their own idea of how to go about this. The men of the old Kala'i Aina in particular stirred up trouble, despite Her Majesty's command not to raise projects of any kind. Now we must all be patient and direct our eyes forward, I told them. Shouts of "We stand with Keali'i" and tattoos reading Aloha Aina were well and good, but to go forward blindly and ignorantly without goals was to make the hooks of the fishermen all tangled. The steering paddle of the people was left to myself and the women's hui. We did our best to hold the men back until the right time for action. At last, the fan that would relieve Her Majesty's heat was created. The petition protesting annexation. Its words were stirring, perfect, but without the signatures of the people, it would carry no weight. And so I set out into the islands to gather them. My first stop was at a ramshackle Salvation Army building in Hilo. So numerous were the listeners that many stood outside in a patient crowd, unable to listen. When the time came for my speech making, I cleared the dust from my throat once, twice, 3 times, and began. We Hawaiians have no power unless we stand together. I stopped and looked up. Hundreds of eyes were on me. Joseph Nawahi, I was not. I knew this, and they knew this. America is a just land of liberty. Let us tell that. The words were gone from my head. I looked to my paper, but I could not find my place. My eyes swam, and my heart pounded. A man cleared his throat. A woman coughed. I found my place. Let us show the Americans that as they love their country and would suffer greatly before giving it up, so do we love our country, and pray they do not take it from us. A voice suddenly cried out from the crowd. I love this land. I do not want to be annexed. As do we all. But we are not gathered here tonight simply to discuss our love of the birth sands. I was off script now, but suddenly it made sense. We are here because we intend to take control of our government, to give life to the people, to care for the land in the way that is best for it. We are here because we are what the Haole call patriots. Kapo'e Aloha Aina, the people who love the land. A chant began to take shape, quietly at first, but gaining in intensity. Aloha Aina! Aloha Aina! Yes, speak up! If we unite our voices, then that great country across the ocean must hear us. With this petition, you, the women of Hawaii, have a chance to speak your mind. A positive roar now. This land is ours, our Hawaii. Shall we have it taken away from us? A'ole, they chanted. No! Shall we be annexed to the United States? A'ole! And suddenly, the people were all up on their feet, talking at once. I love this nation, and I want to be independent now and forever. Tell America I don't want to be annexed. I want my queen. No flag but the Hawaiian flag. The rest of my tour was the same. Everywhere I went, I was showered with lei and gifts of opihi, limu, and fish. When our work was finally completed, we had attained some 21,000 signatures. They are, in this day, less than 40,000 Hawaiians in all. The petition was carried proudly across the sea and read aloud before the United States Senate. When it was finished, some of the senators had tears in their eyes, and many of the votes in favor of the treaty disappeared. Our voices were heard, loud and clear. Annexation was defeated, but we barely had a moment to celebrate before the United States was suddenly at war with Spain. Suddenly, they needed a base from which to attack the Philippines. Suddenly, Newland's resolution, passed by a simple majority in Congress, formally annexed the Kingdom of Hawaii to the United States. It all happened that quickly. The great garish celebration we have seen tonight could scarcely be more different from that lonely evening 2 weeks ago when Keali'aimoku sailed into Honolulu just after midnight. The hour made no difference. A great crowd of her people gathered to meet her. She looked on us for a long moment and finally spoke. Away, bones of my bones, blood of my blood. Aloha. 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 But we would not let her despair. We are still behind you, Keali'i, steadfast in our love for the land. When she retired to her home, the crowd did not disperse. Instead, we followed her and sat up with our queen. It was as if she were still sitting on her throne, and the conversation as if she were still ruling for the pono of her people. Listen, the fireworks have ended and the band has retired their instruments. The partygoers have gone home and the lights of the palace have been doused. For now, there are only the sounds of Hawaii nei. Enjoy them while they last. For only God knows what the Haole intend to make of our beloved Aina. These islands are about to change, so we too must change. The Hui and the Aloha Aina are still strong, and with Her Majesty's help, we will invent new ways to resist. It is amazing to me that this word, patriot, is not a Hawaiian word, for no people love their home greater than the Hawaiians. We are Kapo'e Aloha Aina, the people who love the land. Oh, my Joseph, I pray that you are proud of us, of me. Though the way ahead will be dark, I will find light in your final words. Be hopeful. Stand firm, my friends. He oya mau no kako. We endure. Good night.